Hello, my name is Thomas Xiao. I am a high school student and also community college attender located at Southern California. I'm interested in mathematics, and today I'll be presenting analysis of factors influencing board game ownership based on a gradient boosting model. Analysis of factors influencing board game ownership based on a gradient boosting model. Why study board games? Currently, board games have a $20 billion market valuation, and this number is only projected to grow. As we can see from this picture below, by 2033, the market valuation of all board games as a global market and global industry is going to be projected to be at $41.63 billion, which is a huge market share considering the entertainment industry. Recently, popularity of board games has furthermore also surged during COVID-19 pandemic, where if when people can go outside, they turn to board games for cheap entertainment at home. And today, thousands of companies compete for entertainment visibility in their respective industries, such as Hasbro, AEG, and Bezier Games, respectively. What are we trying to predict? Well, we want to answer this. What makes people buy or own a board game? If we want, decided to focus on game-specific factors like complexity and playtime, and we try to use such factors to be able to predict the amount of users that a board game attracts over time. Where did this data come from? This is a Board Game Geek dataset of variables sourced from Kaggle. Board Game Geek is a huge database of a bunch of different board games that contain variables like the ones we see in our analyses here, such as year published, minimum and maximum players, playtime, minimum age, users rated, rating average, and their own custom BGG ranking, along with a very special complexity average on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the board game is very complex and very difficult to play, and 1 being the opposite of that. This particular data set has included 20,000 plus games with features such as playtime, age, complexity, and own users, like we mentioned before, for our variables in this study. How I analyze the data. I used a series of statistical methods in order to refine my accuracy and predictive models and to be able to best present conclusions using a multitude of factors and analyses, including correlation analyses, lasso regression, random forest, a gradient boosting model, and an inclusion exclusion of the rating variable. Now, what this means is I decided to do two separate analyses for for this study. One including a rating variable where rating variable refers to the amount of users that have rated this board game, and one without. Because trivially speaking, the rating variable has a huge impact on whether or not people buy a board game, and we see this in many products today, right? If more people see that a product is rated highly and more often, then more people are likely to buy it. And so it plays a huge factor in predicting ownership. And so by excluding this rating variable in some of the other analyses, we see the value of the other variables start to emerge as more gameplay specific variables can explain like the variability between shifting data sets. Results of data analysis. We see that, like I said before, users rated has a 0.99 correlation with ownership. Excluding rating variables like these, we see that complexity, playtime, minimum age, and year published matter as a result. If we go back to our previous slide here, we see that the photo towards the middle on the right side here indicates that excluding rating variables, it's a little hard to see, but complexity average remains the highest, which makes sense because if a game is quote unquote easier or harder to play, more people are willing to buy it based on their preferences for game difficulty. Our gradient boosting model achieved a strong correlation metric, and it was able to explain 97.5% of the variance in ownership. Now, what can developers learn from this? Well, We can see that visibility metrics like the amount of users rated and recency are crucial. Um, these visibility metrics should be what developers focus on and keep in mind in their board game marketing strategies, for instance. But these visibility metrics that play the most impactful and important role are not something that developers can ultimately control. Developers cannot control how many people rate their board game, for instance, right? And so, in the absence of this, what developers can control are intrinsic game setting, like variable gameplay mechanics, including stuff like complexity and playtime, which should be balanced in the absence of these visibility metrics. These are the only components that developers can control, i.e., how hard a game is, how easy a game is, how long the game lasts, and these should be the variables that developers focus on. Ultimately, marketing strategies are the most crucial, but gameplay and complexity do play a very impactful role insofar as increasing your ownership over time. Limitations of the study. This board game geek data may be biased towards board game hobbyists. For instance, this board game data only sources from those who have owned many board games across time and who are massive fans of the board game industry. And so, for people who only have, per se, one or two board games, it might not include their opinions. It might not reflect their beliefs within this data set itself. Furthermore, we have no information on factors such as brand name, artwork, etc. In like we said before, when visibility metrics played such a huge role in predicting ownership, brand name and artwork and the marketing side of things do in fact play a very big role in ownership, yet this data set unfortunately did not include such variables. Thank you.